Hey everybody, welcome to Top Chef Fantasy League, the podcast that will cease to exist as it currently is in about 1 hour. I am your host and commissioner, Mike Cablon. With me are my co-hosts Sierra Kato and Iffy Wadiway. Let's start off with the big announcement relating to what I just said. As of right now, as of today, we are now part of the Maximum Fun family of podcasts. Very exciting.
Yes.
If you're very familiar as
yes,
a Maximum
I know.
Film
Just
host.
adding another Max Fun pod under my belt. I mean, I love Max Fun just as a, pod company, and the listeners are great, and I love that, the listeners can support the things that they like. So, anyone who's coming from Max Film, because you heard my voice, look, you're going to love Mike. You're going to love Sierra. Mike, unironically one of my favorite people before this.
Thank you.
And if you listen to past episode, we called him the audition master because
plug that right up top.
Yeah. I was just going to make sure that in our new iteration we know that Mike is the audition master.
And yet doesn't book shit. So with the change, with joining Maximum Fun, there's a few changes. We have a new name. We are now TV Chef Fantasy League. As of today, we are going to start covering MasterChef for the remainder of however long it is on the air. There's new artwork on your podcast feed, so you're going to see that. New social handles. We are now going to be at TV Chef Fantasy League on Instagram. And here's the biggest one. Now that we're on Maximum Fun, there's a really easy way that you can directly support us. Iffy, you just told us about this, but if you go to MaximumFun.org/join, you can become a member, select TV Chef Fantasy League, and that money goes to us, and we can do better and cooler and bigger things with this show.
Yeah.
So check that out. And now we get to talk about the finale of Top Chef. Just general feelings. Hit me with it.
I mean, it was, it's just such a fun episode, the finale, because you get to see them do exactly what they want to do. And, it's been a weird season. Like, I think we've talked about how, there's kind of been some feedback from viewers where it's, not the strongest. Definitely, we've had, mess ups even in this finale. So that was interesting. But overall, I think, it brought what I love from a finale, which is, a lot of kind of emotional food where they had really nice stories behind it. The judges were kind of also getting emotional. Shout out to Kristen, of course. But, everybody, I think, was kind of moved by, this journey. And I love how the chefs have all become friends, which is always kind of the case. But, really seemed like a good trio. And, hey, man, Danny,
well, of course you're happy.
I'm happy, but I think we did call that at an early time. He was always kind of a front runner, but I was just happy to see him kind of get that big win. And at the end, he had that emotional moment where he was like, "I've just always been really hard on myself." And I was like,
which is very
and he kind of
sweet.
tried to duck below the camera in the frame to get out of.
Well, I do want to say that I wrote this down. I'll skip to the end. The producer said, "Oh gosh, what has this experience meant to you?" And he did say that, I put a lot of pressure on myself. But the first thing he said was just, "It's dope, dude. It's dope."
Yeah, he was saying dope while through tears, which is very
through tears. That's the most
Danny.
Brooklyn you can get. Just being crying, being like, "It's dope, dude."
Oh yeah, and which is the second most Brooklyn moment we had in this episode, which is where we had to sit through hearing Dan say "dead ass."
Yeah, dude, dead ass.
Oh my god,
that moment made me cackle so hard. But this was great. And I think a lot about you've been checking the boards and seeing what people were saying, and I think a lot about the fact that a lot of people on the show are fans of Top Chef. They've watched Top Chef, and we're on season 21. And I think what makes it harder on these chefs is that they're always trying to do something different and something stand out.
Sure.
Except for the two people who decided to do risotto. But most everyone is trying to take big swings that kind of make them stand out. And I think when you've seen previous seasons, I think you might incidentally just delete dishes from your head because you're I remember when so-and-so did this. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And when I look at the season as a whole, now that we've gotten to the end of it, it was a season of big swings. And I think as much as people want to say that these chefs weren't as strong or this or that, it's so clear within the judges that they acknowledge and realize that and appreciate that. And if you're not getting these, super perfect dishes that are just standard dishes, maybe. But also, yeah, I think it is what it is.
It is what it is. And with that, or before we dive into the episode, just really quickly, Michelle won fan favorite.
Oh yeah,
It was down between Dan and Michelle last week, and now Michelle is our fan favorite. I didn't assign points to that at the beginning of the season. In retrospect, I should have. It wouldn't have helped you. You're still so drastically far behind. But congrats on winning fan favorite, drafting the fan favorite.
Well
I know.
deserved.
And really, the fan favorite shows up in this episode in great ways, and we'll get into it when we get to it. But it is interesting to see the different ways every chef used their sous chef.
Oh, I've got a lot
There
to
was,
say about that.
the sous chefs had like a real interesting role this time, which I feel like in the past you kind of don't even notice them. It's fun to see familiar faces again. I love. But this one there was like
some drama. We'll get into it. Let's start at the top of the episode. Everyone is calling their spouses. I wrote down nobody said they miss their spouses. It was just them all being like, I can't believe I'm in the finale. Which, great.
I don't miss you at all. I'm fucking in the finale.
I'm on a cruise. I'm going to Aruba. They each get their cute little packages. Also, my notes are a mess this week. This week was so if there's a lot of ums and ahs, I apologize to our editor, which is me. Okay, here we go. I wrote down after they do the little packages, there's one shot of the captain, and I was like, oh, he's trying out for Below Deck.
Oh my God, the crossover we need.
Exactly.
Bravo. Make
Holland
it happen.
America.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would be a good episode of Below. I don't know if any of our listeners watch Below Deck. I love Below Deck. Do you guys watch Below Deck?
No, but I want to get into it, especially since they started the espresso martini trend. Like,
did they?
Wait, really?
Yeah, when I asked, I was like, "What is?" I remember last year on Twitter, I was like, "Espresso martinis, I love them. They're great. It feels like they have blown up. What has happened?" And a bunch of people replied, "It was like, they would drink them a bunch on Below Deck."
I didn't realize that was the start of the zeitgeist moment for espresso martinis.
Yeah.
That's a big legacy.
Do you watch it?
I don't, but I've now had multiple people pitch it to me, like being like, "This is what it is."
It's the platonic ideal of reality television to me.
Interesting
because it doesn't feel. It has the cadence of reality TV, but you also get the sense that this would be happening whether or not the cameras were there. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
None of it. It's not
I
like
love that.
we put these people in a house. It's like no, they're gonna fight. All we did was put cameras on them.
Oh yeah, it's like the premise of the real world without the forcing of it happening.
Exactly.
The way like somebody was talking about it was that like they work all the week or whatever, and then they party one night, and then they spend all their money that they earned or whatever. And I'm like,
and
it's like indentured partying.
Like 20.
Like this is what it is.
Okay, I want
now.
that in the clear because that was hilarious.
Okay, it is indentured partying. That's what I've decided.
And I was gonna say they're also all like 22, so they can their bodies can party all night and then just wake up at 4 in the morning and work.
Jesus,
and they're also all hot because they're doing like physical labor. You know what I mean? So it's such great television. And if we got the captain of Holland America on there, sure, why not?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're in Aruba, which I was just in earlier this year. Have you been to Aruba?
Oh,
I have not been to Aruba yet.
I was not there for a long amount of time, but I did have iguana soup.
Ooh, how was it?
Bony. Iguana much bonier than you want it to be.
Yeah.
Not satisfying to eat.
Come on, iguana.
Yeah, tasty soup though.
Yeah.
And the challenge is just to make the best 4-course meal of your life. You can cook whatever you want, just blow us away. The judges were Top Chef Canada judge David Zilber, who looks cool as hell. I was like, I want that guy.
Yeah.
We don't get it here. We've tried. Laura and I have tried to watch Top Chef Canada here, and you can't. Like you can if you fucking hack something together.
Yeah,
but there's no easy way to watch it.
Yeah, shout out to I saw on our YouTube. For those watchers, somebody commented, "Hey, you guys should check out Top Chef Canada."
We would love to.
Yeah, I guess we can't.
If you can mail us DVDs, we would love to, but we simply can't. Bricia Lopez, chef at Guelaguetza here in LA.
Oh, yeah.
A couple LA chefs in this list, which I thought was nice.
Yeah, I love it.
You guys have been to Guelaguetza?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
I haven't gotten the crickets yet, but I want to.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't gone really exploratory on their menu.
Yeah.
But like the mole, the
everything
fiesta de mole
is
is like
mole.
amazing. It's the best.
Fair.
Justin Pichitrunksi from Anajaktai, another great LA restaurant.
yes.
Which I just was at recently, and I saw Nas there.
Whoa! Okay.
Yeah, he was there because I had a table and they had us waiting for a while, and they're like, "Hey, sorry, it's taking a while. Nas is."
They told you? That feels a little unprofessional.
That's hilarious. Yeah. They're
I
just
feel like
spreading
they
the word.
saw me and I was like, "He would like this factoid."
I got the. I
They're
recently
like-
ate at La Cita, Filipino
Ooh,
restaurant
yeah.
downtown LA. Shouts.
Oh, okay.
And Chris Pine was eating there.
Ooh.
And it was a very like. I don't think anyone said Chris Pine is here, but there was like a. I arrived after my friend got there, but my friend got there the same time as Chris Pine, and he said what he saw was a server come out, eyes widen, go back in, and then a beat later you saw all the chefs in the kitchen come to the window to look
my
at Chris
God,
Pine.
That's so fun. Did he have the long hair still?
A little bit more cleaned up. He was wearing a Canadian tuxedo, denim on denim.
Man.
So much taller in real life than you would think.
Really?
Yeah.
I just cannot wait to see like the moment me and Chris Pine meet each other because we're both LA natives. So you got that lock
I
in.
didn't know
Yeah.
this.
Anytime there's like a lock in moment, like if someone is Nigerian,
Sure.
or if they're an LA native,
Yeah.
we lock in. It
Yeah.
doesn't like there's the moment of like, who is this guy? And then you're like, oh, I grew up in LA. You're like, okay, now we're
Now
now we're
same
talking.
page. We got it.
Yeah.
I get that with people from Vegas because I grew up in Vegas and there
yeah.
simply aren't that many
Yeah.
Vegas expats.
And it's like
Expats,
from someone growing up in
People
LA,
stay.
being from Vegas is such a specific like
Yeah.
type
Oh,
of
yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
Complimentary.
I joke that it's where careers go to die. It's not where they start. You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, I'm from like New Jersey, people are like, so many good people are from New Jersey. There are very few people from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's where people end their careers. It's like
Yeah.
you're in your twilight
Oh,
years,
yeah.
you're done, you phone it in, you go to Vegas.
Yeah, it's like the below deck, but with gambling. And I am referencing Bruno Mars, who's trapped in Vegas right now.
Oh, he's got to pay off
wow.
his debts.
Emerson Paak went and started up his other band, No Worries,
yeah.
because
Oh, 'cause
he's
he's
like,
like, we've
he's
lost
like, yeah, we've
Bruno.
lost Bruno. Bruno
Oh,
is
no.
on the Elvis track.
Oh, no.
Did you see Boz Lerman Elvis?
No, I
did.
still
I
haven't.
did.
Okay,
Yeah.
There's
I miss
yeah,
Long.
there's the whole thing of him basically
Getting
ending up getting
yeah.
trapped in Vegas, which I'm like, God, that sucks, but I also wouldn't hate it. Like,
Looks pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
it's not the worst way to retire because
Yeah.
it's like
Sure.
you have like
And
a
you're
steady
performing,
paycheck. You
yeah.
get to be in one place. You're not
Yeah.
on tour.
you're
you can
usually
raise
in
your
the
family.
penthouse
Yeah.
and like a dope.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's great. Where are we? Oh, judges. Chef Carrie Nabedian, Brindle in Chicago, who I think Dan said he worked for, like, of course. And of course, Emerald
Goddamn.
Lagasse.
Yes.
It's so fun to see chefs be. Everyone was so anytime you said anything complimentary about their
Yeah.
dish, just the shit-eating grins. They're like, Emerald said my food was good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
when he
yeah.
walked in the kitchen, they're all like whispering. Like, I mean, it was a Chris Pine moment, probably.
Oh
Similar.
yeah. Yeah, he walked in, they immediately was like, "That's Emerald," which is funny because I definitely think I wouldn't have clocked Emerald by face.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't grow up
Oh.
watching like his Food Network show?
I know his voice, not his face.
Oh, interesting.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's probably the ADHD.
Sure. He's older now. He's older now,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
A beloved.
I don't know if
Yeah,
I ever
exactly.
saw him. Oh,
Bam.
yeah.
Okay, the chefs draw knives, pick their sous chefs, and here's how it shakes out. Dan picks Amanda. He said he wanted to pick everyone, but he went with someone he could vibe with. So
And
we-
he literally didn't even say her name, and she already knew. So
Yeah,
cute.
I just walked forward.
It
So
made me
cute.
so happy. I was like, okay, I'm back on Demanda.
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
god, yeah, they had
exactly.
like twin telepathy where like everybody was like, "Wait, what? Who'd you pick?" And she was already walking towards him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote down that right after this section when they're like planning their menus, like Savannah and Danny were both like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and Dan was kind of just like, dude, we met Morimoto.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? Like they were
They're
kind of
just
just
catching up.
hanging out,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is very sweet.
I miss you. Yeah, cute.
Danny picks Manny.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah. Let's
Manuel.
pause
Okay.
here. Just seeing the way, and at the end of the day, Danny still won, but just seeing the way that Danny worked, I was like, why the fuck wouldn't
That's-
you pick Sue?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Sue knows
yeah.
literally
Exactly.
you and Sue work
Yep.
the same way. Sue would have fucking crushed. You would have had your
Sure.
melon balls.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Like it was so wild that I was like, I didn't even remember y'all getting that close.
Yeah,
Sue
yeah.
is like such a logical pick for
Yeah.
him.
Sure.
I agree.
I
I
think
agree.
he just is like, I barely know the guy. Like, what if he hasn't shown some side of himself or something? Because
Yeah.
he did really just enter.
Sure.
And Danny, and Manny, knew Manny from
They
the
like
beginning.
bonded on like a personal level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they
guess.
would like hang as buds, but like,
Yeah.
you
When
know,
Danny
maybe-
justified his pick, is like, we want to party tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
hilarious.
agree. It's because Manny has this thing where he was like, oh, cooking with Danny reminded me of what it was like to work in fine dining. And Danny, he was like, yeah, when I say you need to move 10% faster, I'm telling myself I need to move 10%
Right,
faster.
yeah, which is a
makes
nice
sense.
way
But it
to
is
say
like,
it.
yeah, between... everyone who was left, he's clearly not going to pick Laura because he hates her.
Yeah, I was like, I was really like, what if he picked her? Like the ultimate
Would've
like
been
culmination
incredible.
of
Would've
just
been
like
incredible.
a battle.
Yeah, there's no world
They
in which.
just no food makes it to the table. They just kill each other.
But then out of everyone else, like, pick Sue because he has the most similar experience.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
don't they have even some light crossover at working at like either similar or the same restaurants?
Maybe. I just
might be
think that like
misremembering that.
I just think it's like we have a relationship with Sue knowing that he crushed it, and most of that happened in Last Chance Kitchen. And
Yeah.
then when he was in the competition, they were like, "Who's this dude?"
Yeah.
And then he did a couple fine dishes, but he wasn't like he didn't come in strong enough where it'd be like, "Oh, definitely this guy has the same drive or whatever."
Especially because out of all the other chefs, he just wanted like a straight up sous chef. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it's
Exactly.
like Sue would have been
Sous
perfect.
chef.
Yeah, yeah.
And we would have been able to say sous chef.
Yeah, I know. We missed our
yeah.
fucking chance.
Danny really robbed us.
yeah.
I mean, but look, the real winners kind of are the people who don't get chosen because
Yeah.
they get to just chill on the
Laura,
cruise.
Kalina, and Sue just.
Yeah.
Kristen literally said, "Go enjoy the cruise."
Yeah, and they're like, "All right, peace, guys.
See ya.
I'm gonna
I
go
know.
get a Mai Tai."
Yeah.
I do wish they would have had some cutaways of them like doing karaoke or something.
That would have
while
been
they're stressing out.
amazing. Just
I
getting
know.
blasted.
Yeah, doing like the rock climbing on the boat.
Yeah. The little water slide that goes off the side of the boat. You know what I mean?
I will say while we're on the subject, it finally cracked me. This is the
you're
episode
taking a
where I was
cruise?
like, I want to go on a
Oh
fucking
yeah,
cruise.
we got him.
okay.
We got him.
Okay.
Yes, I mean
All right,
they
we're gonna
spent
see.
a lot of money.
I'm gonna talk to Joko Cruise. We might try and get a live TV Chef Fantasy League on the Joko Cruise.
I would love
Dangerous,
that.
dangerous.
Yeah.
But yes,
Okay. And Savannah picks Michelle as her sous chef. Great. Awesome.
Great choice.
Kristen has her first of many moments in this episode where she kind of gets a little emotional, little, that vibe. Which she's like, I've been here, I've been in your shoes, you know what I mean? And I'm really excited to get to say you are top chef. They get to the planning. They literally had the phrase, Danny was like, I got everything down to a T. And Savannah said, I don't have everything down to a T. And I was like, what a drastic stylistic difference between
know.
these two.
yeah, the editor was like, "Got him."
I know.
Yeah.
The editor was like, yes.
It happened during the cook too, where Danny handed Manny a list and was like, here, like you have 45 minutes, execute everything on this list. And then they cut to Savannah being like, I didn't really give Michelle a list of things to do.
Right.
It was very like.
And not to say that one is better than the other, just like
I know
different
it was
styles.
very like I think
Different styles.
Because I think the things that got into Savannah and Dan's way wasn't even like anything to do with that. I think it was just like techniques. I think the jammy salmon, and I knew
Yeah.
that was gonna come back to bite him because they really highlight them being like, yeah, it has like a jammy texture. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know. And
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
love it.
They're not gonna love it.
Yeah.
Which makes
Dan's
sense
never
since
gonna-
fucking Tom hates okra, which is nuts. Every time I think of that, I'm like,
I don't
what?
like okra.
Really?
Here we go.
Wow, Mike.
Is it the gooiness or
It's the gooiness.
For me, and
I'll
I get
eat
it.
I'm not like, ew, take it off the plate, but I'm like, it's not my favorite.
I think I was almost like it's baked into me because two things. My on my mom's side, we'd always go to Church's Chicken after church, and they have fried okra, and so like there's definitely the nostalgic feeling, but also that crispiness to the gooiness kind of
I do
balances
like
out.
that. Yeah, I
And-
don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would like it otherwise, but
And then there's some Nigerian soups that will have the okra in it, but that works because you're doing like you're using fufu,
Like
rice
injera,
flour,
yeah. Oh, picking
and
it
so
up.
like you kind of like scoop it up. So even though it's gooey, it like comes together because it has that soft kind of rice flour to
Yeah,
balance it.
yeah.
So I've always ingested it in ways that are like completely balanced, but I can see why if someone just like made okra.
So many restaurants, it's just like, we boiled it, here you go. And it's like,
Yeah.
this tastes
Oh,
like
sure,
shit,
sure.
dude.
yeah, I can't
Yeah.
be doing that too much.
Have
But
you
yeah,
been to, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, just that like I think I wonder if you what got some really good fried okra somewhere like that could change your mind.
Even fried okra, it's like, on paper, that solves the problem.
Yeah.
You need like a crisp to battle the goo.
Yeah.
It's so, I've had it a couple times and it's always executed in a way where I'm like, this still kind of just tastes like goo. I don't know. I need
You've tried. You've tried.
Yeah.
Have you eaten at Ely? Have we talked about this?
No.
Ooh, you got to go to Ely.
Okay.
It rocks. Good like West African fine dining experience.
Oh
here in
yes,
LA.
I like was supposed to go with a friend, and then it just didn't like work out. I'm very
You make it sound like that
happened?
friend like committed a crime.
no. That friend had to move it, and then we just never did it.
Okay, yeah,
but
yeah.
like
It happens.
I've heard mixed reviews from 2 different Nigerians, so I'm
Whoa,
excited to go.
interesting.
Where one person
Yeah, yeah.
loved it, the other was like, so.
Was that we talked a little bit about this in a past episode? That thing of like,
Oh, yeah.
you're used to the old school idea
Oh,
of what
right.
African food is supposed to
That's
taste
You're
like.
why
specific.
I think so. You
And
have
you're
to
like,
come in
oh, it's
with
not
a-
allowed to be fine dining. It's like,
It's like, yeah, it is though.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
So
yeah, I think I
I'm-
have that with certain things.
okay. They lay out their themes. Savannah wants to do where she's from, where she's going, food memories tied to places. She started in New England, went to the South. I might have that backwards. Whatever. Places and
yeah.
memories.
North Carolina or
Danny wants to do also his first significant food memories and an homage to seafood. And Dan wants to do, inspired by Morimoto's, like you only have one shot at this sort of
Yeah.
proverb, like who I am right now in this moment. So that is the direction they're all going in. No one pivots. I think they're all kind of sticking to that. They go shopping for 2 hours in Aruba. They go to I only noted this because I really wanted to go to this supermarket. There's a supermarket in Aruba where it was like built because like of the Dutch colonizers. Like there's like a Dutch supermarket there, and they're like, there's a stroopwafel station, and I was like, that sounds cool. But I was in Aruba for a very short amount of time, and I
Yeah.
couldn't make it. So every shot I was like, cool, fucking Aruban supermarket. Didn't work out for Dan though, because he wanted sardines.
This is nuts.
And she said, do you want them cleaned? And he said yes. And then she cooked them.
Right.
And there were no more sardines. So he had to pivot to
Yeah,
snapper.
that's tough.
Yeah, I didn't even know that's an option you can really get at a fish
Yeah,
market
to cook
to
it
just cook
on
them.
site.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I feel like it's also wild to see a chef in chef garb and be like, you probably want me to cook this, right?
That's hilarious. Oh my god.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and Danny losing Manny.
Yes, yeah. The biggest dude in the grocery store still can't find him.
It was quite
a very
funny.
charming
Yeah,
moment. Yeah. Dan also said that he was going to go for a soba cha, which I thought was very funny because he calls out. He's like, hey, Danny, this is partially inspired by you. But then he was like, I want to do a really nuanced soba cha. You know what I mean? Like he was sort of
Yeah.
dunking on Daniel. He was like, I want
man.
to take what Danny wanted to do and do it correctly. I want to do a subtle, just a
Make it
subtle, soft soba cha.
Better.
We already talked about Manny cooking with Danny, using up all the cantaloupe.
Oh yeah, I mean, every moment it was like so funny just to see the that's gone. And then when they cut to his like, it just brings me back to my fine dining days.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you kind of feel bad for him, but you're also like, come on, man, don't fuck this up for your guy.
No, that was a really rough moment, and Danny has been the master of being really pissed off and calming
Yes.
himself down.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
been, I was like, man,
He's had some,
Yeah.
definitely lots of things, and it's like you can't really tell. It's like is he easily, pissed off a little bit, right? But some things have really screwed him.
Yeah,
But also,
yeah.
I really like that moment of him being like, taking a moment and being like, here's what we're gonna do, and I was
Yes.
like, that
Yeah,
is
that
a top
calm
chef.
composure.
Okay, yes,
Like,
yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point.
for sure.
Yeah, and he's always been pretty good in a crisis. I would say, and I don't know if we want to get to this yet, but it's like between that, because we said different approaches with their sous chefs, like Savannah and Michelle, I think what we were kind of reflecting on after seeing the results of her dishes is like she maybe took too much input or needed more of a vision.
Well,
and I like that she was
okay.
collaborative, but
Yeah.
it kind of maybe messed with the fact that, like certain things she didn't fully understand and then went with it.
Interesting.
Well,
Okay.
here's my thing, and I think one of the things that kind of was a fumble in her dish is that, and I say this as Michelle being my girl, I love her. It was like
You're
you
gonna talk
took
about the pasta dough?
Yes, of course I'm gonna talk about the pasta. You took the chef who was like, I don't do pasta well,
Yeah.
and managed
Made
to
her
pull
make
it
pasta,
off,
yeah.
and
Right.
was like, oh, she knows how to do pasta. I was like, no, she kind of told you she doesn't.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like
I
when
agree.
we're hearing that the pasta isn't that well, I was like, well, yeah, like that's not her bag, and we saw you kind of have to coach her on pasta. It was like she pulled it off before, and I think it's easier to pull it off when you kind of know what you're going for, but your sous chef is trying to do what you're going for.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that you're
It's
playing
like a misdelegation. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? It's like the concept is good, but don't give the person who's not comfortable with pasta, the pasta dish.
Right.
Yes.
And the whole Kristen is a pasta, has a pasta restaurant thing.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking about the food. Let's dive in. So the first course, Dan serves his jammy tuna
Jammy.
with grapefruit and a black garlic labna.
In defense of Dan, I will say, is he described it as jammy, and then they say it's the same texture as grapefruit, and I was like, I wouldn't call grapefruit jammy.
Yeah.
I was confused
So I was like,
by that too.
either someone is wrong here. Either that was not jammy,
Yeah.
or that grapefruit was weird.
Right. I feel like, maybe the grapefruit was weird, like not super crisp, and it's kind of
A
like
lot of the produce,
soft.
not to dunk on the fine people of Aruba, but a lot of the produce, people are like, this isn't that good. Like, everyone's plantains are like, yeah, these kind of suck. You know what I mean?
I mean, hey, breadfruit. That sounded
I guess
cool.
the breadfruit flies in Aruba. I'm more curious than anything. Just try that tuna and be like,
was
what
it
could-
really that distracting?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Looks pretty.
But then it made sense when you think of Tom Mouthfeel Colicchio, who hates okra. I'm like, I could
Oh
see.
my
And
God.
Gail, even though she isn't as strongly against okra, is in the same camp of like, I really don't, like. Which also I want to say, I noticed all season I didn't mention how Gail be looking snackish, and I'm sorry, Gail, that I didn't.
How is this only
give you
coming
the
up now?
respect.
I know, yeah. You could have had a whole season of thirsting after Gail.
Yeah. I know. But that's just my type. Slightly mean women.
You want them to have an edge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, judges on competition shows are a great place to find that. I think.
That's true. Yeah. All right. Savannah serves a saltfish fritter for her first dish. I had like almost no notes here. Everyone was like, yeah, fine, whatever. It's good.
Yeah. I think she kind of won the first course.
Yes, I would say that.
Yeah. Because Danny, I think there was the most discussion about his dish, which is the scallop and habanero leche de tigre with the breadfruit and nori tuile. But everyone's like, it needs salt.
Yeah, they were pissed about the salt. The scallop needed a couple grains, and it would have been near perfect.
Well, and that's I think they were like, this is like a 90% dish.
Yeah.
The salt would have like taken it over the edge.
Sure.
Whereas Savannah's is a little bit more of. It seemed like it was like a fine.
Good. I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Similar
but I do
to, like,
want us to put a pin in that salt comment.
Okay.
Just for a future episode.
Okay.
For another cooking show that we might be touching on.
Oh.
Wow, crossover.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, great. Can't wait for that.
I'm ready.
Mark that, listeners. Refer back to this moment. He said that the... this is going to be a downer moment because I did a little bit of research. Danny said that this dish was inspired by Chef James Kent, who was his mentor, who when he first interviewed with him told him to make scallops, and now they're opening a restaurant together. When I was looking at Danny's Instagram, it referred to Chef James Kent in the past tense. Chef James Kent died last Saturday, like the Saturday before the finale aired.
No,
no.
way.
Yeah. So I don't know what the status of Danny's restaurant opening is, because I think that the chef at the helm of that restaurant group is, as of like a week ago of today when we're recording, not when the show was happening.
Was it sudden?
Heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's so unfortunate.
And he was like in his 40s or something. It was very,
boy.
yeah.
Well,
So I guess this episode is in memory of Chef James
Yeah,
Kent.
man.
But yeah, because Danny, when they were doing the little breakfast bit, was talking about how like, Chef James Kent gave me my start. Now we're opening a restaurant together. And then it was so bittersweet to look at his social media and be like, this is why we haven't heard about Danny's restaurant, because I'm sure that like the brakes have been pumped.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Anyway, so there's that. Needs salt. What else? Oh, Kristen wanted to know how to make the breadfruit tuile.
Yeah.
It did look very cool.
Oh my
It was
God.
cool
It was
that
a
it was like
gorgeous
shell
dish.
on
Yeah.
shell.
Gorgeous dish.
Just another moment of Danny's like technicality just shining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And in that way, he has those shapes and things. It's like he kind of is a Buddha Lo-esque figure.
Danny
right?
is Buddha 2.0. to me.
Yeah, and they love that,
Yeah. And that was part of the like, I don't want to say inevitability of the whole thing, but a part of why we keyed into him being a front runner up top is because he was so, I don't want to say head and shoulders above the other chefs, but he had that mentality like Buddha of like, no, I cook at this level. I'm going to hold myself to this standard. And I'm going
Right.
to execute this every time.
Yes.
It's a little bit more focused than someone saying like, I'm a pretty good cook. I do what I do, and I hope I can win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Sometimes you need that, and it kind of creates that star quality where people want to go to the restaurant and like freak out when they look in your direction.
Well,
mainly.
I feel like, all season Danny has been operating in a headspace of almost like R&D. And I think it makes sense when you think of it that way because, not all R&D is going to hit. Sometimes you're going to R&D a dish and be like, this ain't the one.
Yeah.
But I think his boldness, and even though it might have kind of set him up in the past, is really what set him apart in this one, which we'll get to in course number 4.
Yeah. But first we got to do the second course.
Yes.
Dan serves up his grilled snapper, braised pumpkin, and a smoked snapper dashi, which is his sobacha. And everyone's like, oh, wow, what a subtle dashi here. And I was like, he really did it. He pulled it off.
Yeah,
he did what he said he was going to do.
I know. I was very scared for a second with the snapper because, when he was deboning it, they caught Amanda being like, wow, you did that really fast. And I was like, oh, does this mean he's going to miss some?
Before boning some
right. I
edge.
didn't even
But
think of that.
no, he just was really good at deboning.
Yeah. Dan's an experienced chef.
Yeah.
Savannah does her spiny lobster agnolotti, inspired by her time in Boston. Nothing is ever the fault of the sous chef.
Yeah.
Because it's a delegation problem, and we don't need to beat this to death. But I was like, why?
Yeah.
But Savannah also knew. She was like, I know the dough was not where I wanted it to be, but there was no time. What could I do?
Well, and the reason there was no time is because it was pasta, and that's kind of the downfall of pasta. And I love the vision because I love a lobster ravioli type beat.
Of course.
Which if it would have sung, it would have sung. But I was like, I think if you would have just focused on doing something that highlight those flavors without the vehicle of pasta, it would have been more closer. Because
she could have taken the dough and said, this isn't good, I'm going to pivot to a different vehicle.
Yeah, because she kind of did what Danny couldn't, which was cook the spiny lobster in a way that everyone was satisfied, which that was the one thing people were like, oh, the lobster is great, it's just the pasta.
Yeah. And this is a little bit of what you were saying about Michelle helping her more with her menus. I'm like, I actually don't think Savannah's problem was in concept because all of her flavors worked. I think a lot of Savannah's errors were just technical stuff where it's just the dough wasn't good dough. You know what I mean? And I do want to talk a little bit about, we'll get to it, but I feel like there's a little bit of bias for Danny because he was such a bulldozer going into this.
Yeah.
Where it's oh, Danny undercooked his lobster, but it was a good dish. And then Savannah does lobster perfectly, and they're like, nah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
I know. I think the thing that made me understand where they were coming from is them phrasing it where it's this specific kind of lobster is hard.
Spiny lobster,
The spiny, they're I feel like it's one of those things where it's I understand why you might have fucked this up because this is not a easy one. And I think, but with Savannah chopping it up instead of cooking it traditional lobster, it made it easier for her to cook. So I kind of see it, but I do get what you mean. And I think it's it is the double whammy where he tried something interesting and kind of fell flat, where she tried something which I think if it was would have been the banger, would have been the winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think because it was an easier dish, it was more you didn't do the pasta.
Yeah. Well, I also think with these vision things, like you're saying, it's I think, what if we put Danny in that position where the dough came out and Manny made or something, and it was wrong.
Yeah.
I think he probably would have thrown it out, and pivoted to something and maybe wouldn't, you wouldn't even notice. So there are these kind of decisions, and it's the combination of everything, right? Of course, if you nail it technically, then you don't even have to worry about the rest of those things.
Right.
But there is, something there where I felt maybe she was too tight on some things and then too loose on other things, and it unfortunately didn't work in her favor. But overall too, and I think this brings Dan into the equation too. I did, feel like there was some bias for Danny, and I think there's just and this is the Top Chef way, and we talked about this last episode too. I just think there's just some sort of we're trying to find a star here, and who's the one who's going to have a really successul, flashy dish or restaurant, and that means this spikier, chef who has big
the
swings.
biggest vision, with the least amount of and who can come reasonably close to that vision, as opposed to dreaming small and being able to execute that perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah, and to the point where it's so amazing. We can actually overlook some flaws,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and that's
Yeah.
kind of, you know, again, an emotional, I think, judgment, but this is how they do it. I think it makes it feel more like art to them. You know?
Sure,
They're like,
yeah,
this
I know
is
what you
an
mean.
art,
I know what you mean. We still haven't talked about Danny's second course dish, but this to me is like a little bit of a demonstration of how I think it's a little bit biased. This was Danny's smoked mussels, plantains, and cabbages. It was just like a stack of things.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, they said the table was divided. Like some
Yeah.
people are like,
Sure.
I didn't know how to eat it. It was good, but it was like a little confusing. And so to me, I would give the second course to Dan because everyone's like, the snapper with the
Definitely.
soba cha, it was great. It was simple. It was exactly what you wanted it to be. It was good. Savannah fucked up her pasta. Danny fucked up sort of the like construction of the dish.
Eatability.
So I'm like, at this point, I'd put Dan on top. You know what I mean?
I think Dan crushed this one for sure.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But I think everything y'all just said is why why Danny kind of took it with that one, because I think also I'd imagine that if you got served Danny's dish in a restaurant like proper, you'd have the waiter there being like, and this is how you eat this.
Right, of
Right.
course.
And
know.
I think
he should have
that's-
said that.
yeah.
That changes a lot because
Yeah.
the minute he said that, it like almost comes like you look at it like a
Right.
puzzle and it's like, oh, you did
Yeah.
those things. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and I think that I think it's everything y'all just discussed, where it's like the flashier, the fun, and to me, I got that the moment like Gail was like, you know, it was so complex. I was like, oh, you're like
You're finding the
you're
word
nerding,
here.
you're nerding out. This is no longer about like good food and taste.
Yeah.
You're nerdy about like good restaurant.
Yeah,
you know.
Yes,
you want the
yes.
experience.
And I think that's one thing that is worth kind of remembering is that, like, you know, Christian Kish, amazing chef, but I think like folks like Tom and Gail, like they are amazing chefs. Tom flexed early, but they're restaurateurs, and I
Yes,
think
yeah,
like
yeah.
that element always is gonna like give them a nudge
Yes.
in a different way.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the third course, which I think might reinforce my thesis here. But okay, so Dan does oxtail ragu with dumplings that he cooked twice to puff them up. It looked amazing.
It looked
Yeah.
great.
Also, that dumpling
Nailed it.
hack that they did
Yeah,
was
yeah,
such
like-
a cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The more you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, everyone loved it. There's not a lot to say here. Everyone was like gaga over this dish. And, you know, I'm going to skip ahead, but this is the point that I'm making is that, like, Savannah fucked up the mofongo and Danny fucked up the cook on the lobster. I'm like, well, okay, then I would also give the third course
Yes,
to Dan here.
I think Dan had a very strong
Yeah,
showing.
that's-
Yes. Uh-huh.
But, you know, we're just talking in circles now. But, like, because Danny aimed higher, I think everyone's like, well, you know.
Yeah, but this one I think your argument is even stronger here because I think like an oxtail ragu is such a blend of like culture
Yes.
in a fun way where I think this is a Dan win.
Yeah.
And I do think it might have been a Dan win, but like the other rounds, I think Danny would still be up, you know, with the debatable round before this.
Sure.
And and I think even though like people didn't like the scallops, I think the salt wasn't as big of a deal as they like I think they were like, it's salty, and they kind of emphasized it because Danny was like, well, I brined it 50 minutes. I was like, well, everyone
not enough. Yeah.
So I think it was emphasized, but I don't think it was that big of a deal because it was a thing that they
still
ate,
liked it.
Yeah,
and everyone
yeah.
was like, "Oh, this is good," and then it was one person being like, "But
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like no matter what that dish won, it was like
Yeah.
the winner above everything else. But they're like, but you know what would have made it perfect?
yes,
Yeah.
I see.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the shame of being like, oh man, if we just
came
it
so
would be
close.
so perfect.
Yeah,
I just want to
exactly.
tell you
Oh,
what
yeah.
you needed. Yeah.
Okay, Savannah's third course was her seared grouper with the quote unquote mofongo. Because even she was like, it's like a rough mofongo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Tom said, that's not mofongo, that's mofong no.
Yeah. Which
And then I appreciate that someone else, they didn't show who it was, someone else at the table went, oh, Tom.
Tom, please, Tom, no.
Also,
So funny.
you know,
It's classic
I'm just
Tom.
gonna say, I feel like maybe Tom's amping up the joke, knowing that Padma's going to UCB classes.
Oh yeah. He's
like,
oh,
I can be
shit.
funny too.
Yeah. He's like, I better
don't
get this
need no
funny
UCB
joke out there.
class.
Yeah. This is what you can't learn Mafung no in UCB
Yeah,
101.
exactly. Yeah. I don't need a class. I have kids. I'm a dad. Tell dad jokes all day.
Oh no.
But yeah, and this was another one where Savannah knew. She was like, yeah, the plantains weren't great to
Yeah.
begin with. I know
Yeah.
it's a rough mofongo. And they were like,
Yeah.
well, then don't put it on the plate.
And they
Yeah.
said, if she had just removed that, maybe it would have been great. So it's
Yeah,
like,
'cause the other half
maybe
of the dish
don't.
was good.
Yeah.
And that happens so often, I feel like, this season where it's like, yeah, you could have just got rid of the thing that you knew wasn't that great. And everyone's like, oh yeah. Especially like some of the dishes where I'm like, yeah, no, it didn't even really need that thing.
Yeah. And this is something that like Tom has been banging the drum of since season 1. Is just like edit. Like that's part of the mark of a good chef. Is just like know when to hold back.
Yeah.
Restraint.
Like last episode, he talks about how like when he opened his steakhouse. Why am I blanking on the name of it?
Craft.
When he opened Craft, he was like, that was the first time I learned that like we have like a peppers dish on the menu. You know what's in it? Peppers. You know what I mean? Like if you just execute it well, you can just serve it and it's okay. You don't have to like chef it up. Okay, Danny's third course, the spiny lobster with salsa matcha and chaza sauce, inspired by the first dish that his wife made for him. He had never had the chaza before. Manny, again, not the fault of the sous chef. It's never the sous chef's fault. But like you said, why delegate this task to someone who's not going to do it to your liking? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the toughest part about this is in the same way we were like, when we talk about the Laura villain edit, where it's like, that's the cut they're using. I have to imagine that it had to have been so much worse in the moment if these are the cuts we're getting of Manny, because I do think there's no reason to show Manny really fucking up that much, other than to build like drama when necessary, and I was like, damn, Manny.
They really kind of threw me under the bus with the edits. When you said that, jogged my memory. I forgot to mention this earlier. I like to imagine that they had to cut out the part where when Dan asked them to clean his sardines and they cooked them instead, there had to have been one who went like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
I said clean, not cook.
Oh,
And they had to be like, no, he's in the running for fan favorite. We got to take
that
part out.
Yeah, we got to.
He went behind the counter.
Losing his mind.
Yeah.
I will say, because Manny got some more screen time, I looked up Camp Pickle, which is like his restaurant he's in charge of. So it turns out it's some sort of like camp for pickleball players. Like you can go as an adult and have like a fun time playing pickleball, and there's a great restaurant, and there's like a bunch of stuff to do. So I was just like, is he making pickle dishes? What? So so if anybody was confused about
like
Camp
the way
Pickle,
like you go to like a Top Golf or whatever, and you can also order chicken wings,
right? But I think it's like sleepaway. Like it might be like you can maybe go and like sleep over and do a weekend or something. But like a classy adult weekend, I guess.
I can't believe there is a big enough audience for that to merit an entire business.
I think pickleball's so big right now, and people have money who play those kinds of sports. So I think it's definitely like a venture capital thing where somebody invested a lot of money to who probably is passionate about pickleball. And hey, Manny's in charge of the menu, so if everybody's okay with a little undercooked lobster, he might as well go. Kidding.
I did want to point out that Danny had a good poker face about it at the judges' table. They were like, "What temperature are we going for the lobster?" And he said, "Like a medium rare." And I was like, "That's a good way to just be like,
right? Yeah, he didn't even answer like exactly the temperature
for it. Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Ballpark this kind of rare one.
And then we kind of touched on this, but I'm like, why didn't Savannah get this kind of grace with her spiny lobster? But I think that when you said like, if it's in a pasta, then it's chopped. It's a little bit easier to cook. That makes sense to me. Okay, fourth course, the dessert course. Dan does a yogurt mousse with grilled pineapple and a salted phyllo crisp. Not a lot to say here. Everyone loved it. Everyone's like, it's good, got it, makes sense, tasty. Savannah, kind of the same thing. She had her hummingbird banana upside down cake. She had a pivot. She wanted ice cream originally, and then she pulled it out and said, "Oh, this is like that chewy Turkish ice cream, but it's not supposed to be." She eyeballed the stabilizer too much, but she treated it like a creme anglaise, added coconut, made it into a sauce. Great pivot.
Graceful.
And everyone said it was good. I want to point out that Justin from Hanajak Thai said, it's a kind-hearted dish. And I was like, that has real, like, bless your heart energy. You know what I mean? Where it's just honey. It's like a little patronizing.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That's so funny. Yeah, because I was kind of like, what is he getting at here? Does he know that she is sweet? So I was like, maybe he knows that?
But a kind-hearted dish, I'm like, that's a thinly veiled criticism.
That's smart.
And Danny had his piragua con leche, melon sorbet, avocado yogurt, candied seaweed, which, by the way, we didn't even talk about last week when they're like next week on. They showed Danny angrily slamming something in the trash can, but it was just him trying candied seaweed and be like, that doesn't work, and then trying it again. You know what I mean? These editors are tricky.
They got to keep us guessing.
I appreciated his anti-griddle. I thought that was a cool technique for his condensed milk stamp, where he just made like a dry ice flat top and then poured milk on
So
it and
cool.
stamped it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the kind of technique where I'm like, okay, I see
I
why
guess
you
so.
won.
Yeah. Tom fully it was so funny. I feel like I don't
Bought
remember
into
the
it
exact quote, but he
hard.
was after the story with his grandfather too. He was like, it reminds you why we love food.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
So,
Yeah. And then once he said that, I was like, it's a
this
wrap.
yeah,
He got
he
Tom.
loved it.
He got
He
Tom
loves it,
locked
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Tom must
Yeah.
have had an ice cream date with his father or something.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the way
Absolutely.
Tom almost
Loved
as
it.
misty-eyed as we'll ever see Tom is
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I just remember walking around Brooklyn and
Yeah.
you go up to an ice
Oh
cream
my gosh.
stand.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
okay. I think I've brought this up before, but it's that shot from Ratatouille where Anton Ego as a child,
Yes,
yeah.
into his eye. He's eating Ratatouille as a little boy after his mom
Yeah.
serves it to him after he's been crying, and it's like that's what Tom got in that. In
Yeah.
that
He just
dessert.
tapped him right in a particular part
Yeah.
of his
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah, he went from Mafung no to Mafung yes.
This is this is the part where I was like, oh yeah, Tom is fully just biased toward Danny. But he did say when Danny first brought it out and said candied seaweed, Tom kind of rolled his eyes like, okay, yeah, what candied seaweed is kind of again just serve me
Okay.
peppers, you know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
But then he ate it and he loved it.
Like, yeah, this worked.
I wrote down that Tom did say it's going to become a signature dish, which is not the same thing as saying
Yeah.
this could be on a menu of this
Right.
restaurant. So that I'm going to say no points there. And that's it for the food. Anything else we want to say?
No, I think we laid it all out.
Okay, great. Quickly, I wanted to say that Terlato wine was on the table when they were on the
They were
deck
all-
railing. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, Terlato's back, baby.
And they were all kind of sad after the first discussion of their in
Yeah.
the interim, and I kind of feel like I hadn't seen that before. Normally it's kind of more of a celebration, but I think they
Yeah.
were all in their heads a little bit because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did
yeah.
get
Oh, definitely,
criticisms,
yeah.
and I feel like they were just tossing back the Terlato.
They were
Yeah.
also. I forgot to bring this up. I don't know if you noticed. Danny had the seasickness patch behind his ear.
Yes,
Oh yeah, I
I
was wondering
did,
what
yeah.
that was. That's seasickness.
That's a prescription seasickness patch, and I was
Oh.
like, maybe the other ones aren't seasick, or maybe they're wearing the bracelet or whatever.
Right.
But there's all I had to remind myself, oh yeah, the whole time they're cooking, Land is doing this.
Oh
you
my
know what
God,
I mean?
yeah.
I mean,
that's hard.
That must be also hard in itself. Is just that the way, especially I can't imagine how it is in those boat floors. Something for us to consider if we get this
Joko.
Joko Cruise live pod. I was doing improv on stage, and the boat got so rocky where you can kind of jump up in the air. Me and Gary Anthony Williams would jump up in the air and stay up for a couple seconds and drop.
It's terrifying.
And luckily, I have just that thing in me where I don't get motion
Yeah,
sickness,
yeah.
so I'm having a
Good.
good time.
Sure.
Some
of those other people.
So
Oh my
a
God. I
lot
would
of
need the
talent
patch.
was not. M was in bed,
no.
crushed. Which also, when we get to do Joko Cruise, we do get to bring our partners. So,
Nice. Now we're
Oh.
talking.
So
Yeah.
look. We'll have to.
Yeah, I honestly, I think I need 5 of those seasick patches all over my body, just
yeah.
covered in
Sarah
them.
was there, but she had
Yeah.
all these patches all over her face.
She
It
was entirely
weird.
gray and polka dotted. What was that?
Danny wins. Of course he wins. He's the first Dominican, Puerto Rican, Muslim top chef.
That made me crack up because that felt like when people make these super niche
Specific.
statistics
Sure,
for
yeah,
NBA,
yeah.
where it's LeBron James is the most fourth quarter
right.
clutch
Yeah,
point
yeah.
shooter
Yeah.
in the game. It's
Continuously still playing, not
Right.
retired yet. Yeah.
It's
no,
like
it's
if I
good.
won, it's I'm the first Nigerian named Ife Shikude who's been to UCB Top Chef
Sure, yeah.
winner.
Oh
yeah,
my God,
exactly.
yeah,
Anyway,
Because the other guy we were talking about, he was a Dominican winner, right?
which one?
The one who with the
Oh,
dreads.
Amar Santana.
Amar, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So yeah, I think we have had a Dominican, and I think we have had a Puerto Rican. So I feel like he's
he had to narrow it
Yes,
down to be
also,
this
yeah.
is my first thing.
Named Danny with a brownstone fund.
Well, yeah, and I was gonna say,
Speaking of-
regardless of whatever you want to call it, he did win $303,000, the most money a Top Chef has ever won.
Totally can go towards a down payment.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's a brownstone fund, baby. Seems like Dan and Savannah were both kind of great sports about it. They're like, okay, cool. I like Savannah's little wrap up. She was like, I'm at peace with this. I have more confidence now. And I was like, yeah, she's Rocky,
She did-
basically.
oh,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
she-
She is
deserves
like the
more
people's champ. I
confidence.
still stand by like seeing her kind of blossom in this season. I think I'm excited to see what dishes she chefs up.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that's the main thing for her. Like just that confidence. And even I think she had a lot of momentum going into the finale or going into like the Caribbean, like the move from Wisconsin to the cruise. But like, if she had just pushed even further into that zone, I think it would have helped maybe. But
I'm excited.
she deserves to.
She talked at breakfast about how like the others have open restaurants. She's like, no, I left executive chef position, but I haven't had my own restaurant.
Right.
Now this is a good
and they're
jumping
like,
point.
that won't be the case for long.
Yeah,
Like you're
exactly.
gonna definitely open one soon.
I was trying to search for Puerto Rican Top Chef winners, and it's all Danny's quote. And I was like,
of
Danny,
course.
you fucking killed the
He
SEO.
SEO'd it out.
But Salon says Top Chef finale does a disservice to its incredibly talented, deserving winner.
Oh.
Which I was
In
like,
what way?
yeah, I know,
Hold
yeah, I know. I'm a graze to see.
Okay, while you're doing that, let's do
Yes.
our points breakdown.
Yes.
Whether
I
this
don't
your
need to be present for
Sure,
this.
yeah, you can tune out for take a lap. You can find our scoring rules on our Instagram, which is now at TV Chef Fantasy League. The sous chefs were Amanda, Manny, and Michelle. That's 2 points each. The top chef was Danny. So in this episode, Iffy, you got 4 points for your sous chefs.
Nice.
That helps. I gained 2 points here. You gained 6 points, which means at the end of the season, here's what our scoreboard looks like. Iffy, you come in dead last with 24.5 points.
Tight.
Under half the amount of points that I have.
All right.
I have 50.25 points. Sierra, you destroyed us with 67.25 points. Congratulations.
Hell yeah. I mean, I didn't do it alone. I did it with an entire
Mostly
team
with
of
Danny
chefs.
and Dan.
Yeah, Danny and Dan and Sue, honestly, with a
Right.
lot of the Last
Yeah.
Chance Kitchen wins. But yeah, what a great crew. I think, as I mentioned, I think I texted you guys on the first episode watch of Top Chef, and I was like, this is so much more fun playing it with
points,
fucking teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you just have people you're rooting for. And I feel like if we didn't do teams, obviously I'd still be really a fan of everybody. Maybe would be like rooting for Savannah because of the underdog quality.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like it just really makes it so much fun, and every little watch. I didn't think after watching so many seasons it could be any more fun. But
Well,
hey,
and that's
here
why we
are.
tell you to do it at home.
You gotta.
This is a blast.
Do try this at home.
Okay, Sierra, you get dinner on us. We'll figure that out at some
okay.
point.
Yes.
And you also get the first round pick
Okay.
in the MasterChef season, which is going to happen
MasterChef.
right now. So we are dropping this Monday morning. Right now, you can turn off this podcast and tune into the first episode of TV Chef Fantasy League MasterChef edition. That's it. Subscribe to TV Chef Fantasy League. Watch MasterChef Wednesdays on Fox. Check out MaximumFun.org/join. Tell them you like our show, TV Chef Fantasy League. And we'll see you in the first episode of MasterChef, which is now.
Coming out.
So check it out.
Did you figure out the salon?
Yeah, it's
recipe?
kind of the opposite of what y'all are saying, where they said that the edit makes it seem like Danny didn't deserve the win. And they're kind of blaming the edit.
I see.
And they were kind of talking about how they had to the judges has openly said when Buddha was on, they had to tamper down their
They don't
their
wanna
picks
Right.
because
give it away.
because he was so good.
Yeah.
And basically they're arguing that they had to do the same for Danny, but with the way that they edit, it almost makes it seems like kind of like what y'all were saying, where it's like some of the things they were saying makes it feel like he shouldn't have he shouldn't have won, but
He cooked
clearly
good food.
he won.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like
Right.
basically like because of them tampering down their like notes and making it seem like Danny fucked up with the edit, it leaves a lot of viewers being like, well, then he shouldn't, kind of like that
Interesting.
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, okay.
And apparently Tom has gone on Twitter to defend Danny winning.
Interesting.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh yeah. But then they also mentioned like his mentor passing too.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. So
Oh,
I'll send
yeah,
it
yeah.
in the group
That's
chat.
a
We're
lot,
in a group
but,
chat.
But yeah, check that out.
As you'd imagine.
Check it out.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.